Hello, everyone. I'm here to introduce today's sponsor, Anchor. If you've been following this podcast for some time, you might know that out of all the podcast hosts I have looked into/tried, Anchor is my favorite. Unlike many other podcast hosts, Anchor is free and will actually pay you, yes, pay you from its own sponsorship program. Another plus, you do not have to have a minimum listenership in order to qualify. You can literally upload an ad with your first episode. Anchor also provides creation tools that allow you to edit and record your podcasts from your computer or your phone. When you are done and hit upload, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more platforms. So in conclusion, Anchor makes podcasting super easy, so start one today. I literally know you've been thinking about it. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Cute Kind Of. If this is your first time here, hello, hi, my name is Laila and welcome to my beauty and lifestyle podcast. So in today's episode, I wanted to do something a little off the cuff, very random, although it's not very random at all. I'm going to be talking about how I run this podcast today. So we're going to be going over my episode ideas, how I organize all of them, write notes, my recording, what I use to record, the platform, monetization, graphics, you name it, whatever I do for this podcast, I'm going to be talking about it today. In general, this is just a really fun episode if you're learning how to make a podcast and what I would recommend. Obviously, I am not a podcast expert, although I've been podcasting for pretty much a year. I'm definitely not an expert. I'm still figuring it out, so we can figure it out together. But so far, this is what works for me, so I thought I would share it with you guys. Alright, so let's start off with how I kind of organize the overall podcast, which includes like where I organize my ideas, write down my notes. So basically, I use my Notion to organize my podcast. Talked about Notion in my how I got my life together / how I plan my life out / how I organize my life episode. I'll link it on the blog so you guys can listen to it. But basically Notion is just this like online app that you can access on your computer, your phone, so it's very accessible, where you can basically just organize your life. It's a very like customizable app, so you are basically starting off with like a blank sheet. I highly suggest you listen to those episodes because I go more in depth about this app. But basically on Notion, you can create like a database. So I have my Cute Kind Of database basically, and underneath that is I have different pages that relate back to Cute Kind Of. Alright, so the pages are as follow. We have the ideas board, the content database, my hours log, podcast to listen to, and then the weekly agenda. So starting off the ideas board. The ideas board is basically where I organize all my ideas, and how I have it laid out is that I have it tagged by specific topic. So I have like a beauty board, a skincare board, a life board, self-growth, self-care, productivity board, Q&A advice board, style board, and then a content board. And this just helps me like organize all my ideas and make sure that like I'm switching up my content. So I'm not doing like beauty content every single week. I'm dipping into skincare, or I'm doing like self-growth, self-care, and it helps keep the podcast just in a variety, or have a variety. I don't necessarily like plan out in detail the episodes on this specific page. I'll just like jot down a few notes or like add links if I wanted to. Where I do plan out my content that is absolutely going up is my content database. So my content database is basically like an Excel spreadsheet. On Notion, you can like create pages with like Excel spreadsheets / like different kinds of like database organizational like mechanisms. But my content database is basically where I write out what is going up every single Friday for Cute Kind Of. Right now I only have like podcast episodes, and I organize them by like the season it's in, the season episode number, the actual like overall episode number, the name of the episode, the status of it, if it's been published, if I want to put it on hold, publish date, and then I put in the content or like topic tag of it, and then I have a link to the episode blog post. And then within each of these like Excel lines, I have an actual link to the episode in the sense of like it opens up another like blank sheet where I can actually write down my notes and just other things about the podcast episode. So I'm doing that right now with this. But basically the template of that, it follows who made this thing? All right, sorry, I had to figure that out. But the actual like page templates are direct copies of Thomas Frank's video production Notion he has. I'll link it. But basically those are very specific. I organized or redesigned my template just so it worked for me better. I kept a lot of the same things, such as like drop downs for title ideas, keywords, sponsor information, then like having a link to a specific checklist for when I publish or I'm working on episodes. Then I have like a place where I can write down a script if I wanted to. But basically the bulk of the information, I just write it note style on the page. I know a lot of people use Google Docs, which I think is great. You can actually link Google Docs to your Notion as well. I just like Notion because it keeps everything together and I don't have to like sit on Google Docs to try to hunt down specific documents because there's a lot going on in my Google Docs area or Google Drive. But yeah, this is just a way easier way to like organize and just plan out my episodes. So I go into it with a lot more like organization, preparedness, I would say. All right, next is my hours log. I don't know if you guys can hear, but I'm like clicking. That's like my computer because I'm on it right now. So I can explain this. But the next is my hours log. I learned this from Chris Yu's Notion video, and I think this is an extremely smart idea, especially if you're working on projects or just working from home on personal things or work from home or have you're self-employed, whatever. But in general, this is like a really nice thing to do because basically it really helps me figure out how to manage my time when it comes to working on this podcast. So for example, recording an episode, I would write down recording an episode and then I would do a start time. And then whenever I'm finished with that episode, I will put the end time and it will help me see how long it actually takes me to record an episode, certain episodes. I log pretty much anything I do regarding the podcast from like working on my Instagram feed, editing podcast episodes, going from uploading, how long it takes me to actually upload an episode, which means like going through the blog post, making sure links are correct, so on and so forth. Like for example, another one is editing the podcast because of the hours log of me like actually sitting and organizing my time and seeing what I do. I figured out that it takes me 2 hours to edit 1 hour of content, which is a really long time, but I have to like plan for that, correct? So yeah, I really like having an hours log. I highly recommend you have it. You're going to spend probably like a week or two trying to figure out like recording down the information to see how long it actually takes you to do what. And then, yeah, then you can plan your time better or more. Or like you can plan your time more accordingly. That's the word. Following that, I have a podcast to listen to board. So basically, I use Apple Podcasts to listen to my podcast episodes from different podcasts I follow. And I like Apple Podcasts, but I feel like a lot of times Apple Podcasts just kind of like I feel like when I go on to like my recently updated episodes, it's just such a like overwhelming feeling to kind of just look at everything that just pops up. Because let's say I don't listen to podcasts for like 2 days, then like literally all the podcast episodes from the last 2 days will pop up. And like sometimes I don't want to sit there to figure out which podcast episode I want to listen to. However, I love listening to podcasts. I have my own podcast. So I organized it as follows. So this is like the board template from Notion. And basically what it is you can organize it basically as columns. So each column has like the title. So like I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. No, sorry. I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend. And then I write down which podcast episodes go up that day, along with what that podcast is about. And then how long each of the episodes are in the sense of like for example, for Monday, I have Glowing Up. It's a comedy/beauty podcast. And the episode I have is medium, so 30 to 60 minutes. Tuesday, we have Life with Mariana. It's a beauty, self-health, and growth podcast. It's also medium. It's 30 to 60 minutes long. It just helps me organize. And then also when I'm trying to find new podcasts to listen to, I'll like write it down on here so then I can actually keep up with it. So it's really nice. I highly suggest you guys do this. It just keeps like all the podcasts I listen to way more organized. All right, and then finally, I have my weekly agenda board, which isn't in my Cute Kind of workspace / database. It's in my like personal database, private database or whatever. And what it is, it's literally just my weekly agenda where it tells me like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what I'm doing each of those days. And basically, I don't have any personal things on here. I just have my podcast stuff. So like, and it doesn't really change from a week-to-week basis. I just have this so then I remember what I have to do each day. But then also on top of that, it helps me plan to move things around depending on if I'm busy or not that week. So like yesterday, I was having a very sad day. So I didn't plan this episode. So instead I did that today. So I had to move some things around. Like it basically plans out my entire week with the podcast. So like scheduling social every single day, writing a blog post, making a graphic, planning an episode, uploading the episode, editing the episode, so on and so forth. So that's basically what this is. It's basically very simple. I really enjoy having this because I'm a very forgetful person, so I need to be told every single week what I gotta do. And it helps me keep the ball rolling and stay organized. Alright, so that was my Notion. Let me know if you want me to do a video, like a YouTube video of me showing you around my Notion. I watch a bunch of those and I love watching them. And I feel like obviously since this is a podcast, it's auditory, like you can't see what I'm actually talking about. I would not be surprised and I do not blame you if you were kind of confused when I was going over that. Totally understand. So if you're interested in a video like that, let me know and I'll be happy to do it. But moving on, we're going to go into recording. So I brought my podcast recording equipment off of Amazon and the mic I use is the Fifine metal condenser recording microphone. It's a USB microphone and it costs about $35 on Amazon. It's a pretty popular one that a lot of people use. I'm pretty sure if you just started a podcast, a lot of people use this mic too. And then on top of that, I use a pop filter that I also got from Amazon. It's called the Pimotech pop filter and it costs around $11 on Amazon. Honestly, the pop filter, I don't really see that big of a difference with my recording. I mean, this is like a pretty decent microphone for the price and also like what you're getting. So I would recommend it. But then again, I haven't tried any other microphone from Amazon or like a more expensive / higher quality one. But it gets the job done. I like it. Then on top of that, I have a pair of Apple AirPods. I'm just saying that like Bluetooth earphones are really, really nice when you're doing your podcast, just because it minimizes the amount of wires that are just running around your desk. So that's just the headphones I use if you're interested in that. All right. And then next, how I edit this podcast. So I edit this podcast myself. I absolutely hate editing. Like, I can't even explain it. My dream in life is to get a podcast editor because I think, like, editing the podcast, it's one thing to go into, like, planning it, recording it, and then doing all the other stuff. And just having recording on top of it gets really annoying. But, I mean, I'll do it because I have to. But when it comes to editing my podcast / where I actually record my podcast or like what program I use to record my podcast, I originally started with using Audition, which is from Adobe. So you have to buy like the monthly subscription from Adobe. And then Adobe took me off of their college student account. Yeah, I know, rip. But then I had to drop using Audition. I really liked Audition. I liked it because it was very fast. When I was recording my podcast and during the editing process, it didn't really have a lag time, which was really, really nice because lagging is annoying. I'm pretty sure everyone can agree with me. So after I got rid of Audition, I got Audacity, which is a free program you can get for your Mac, but also for Windows. And Audacity was good. I was having trouble kind of working with the program, and I didn't work with it for long enough for me to figure out how to use it. But it's a pretty decent program. Granted, I feel like the mechanics of it is kind of outdated, which yeah, it's kind of outdated, which can make it kind of harder to use. But then one day I was just on Instagram and I follow Brandon Wardwell, who has his own podcast called Yeah, But Still. And he showed like a screenshot of his like desktop when he was recording an episode, and it looked like he was using GarageBand. So I was like, oh, let me try using GarageBand. And so basically, I love GarageBand. I think I like it more than Audacity and also Audition. The reason why is it's very easy to use, very intuitive. It's a very simple design. On top of that, it is fast. So when I go in to edit it, it takes a long time to edit a podcast, but I mean, it takes me less time than it would take me on Audition or Audacity. And then also on top of that, they have like filters for your mic, and I use the narration vocal filter, which is really, really nice because it basically clears up your sound. I don't know if you guys have listened to like my older episodes before I started using GarageBand, but I'm pretty sure you could hear a difference between before GarageBand to after, because my voice is a lot more clear with the narration vocal filter, and it's really easy to use. I love it. Easy to record, easy to edit, you name it, very simple. All right, so let's move into hosting platforms. So when you record your episode, edit it, you're gonna need a place to host it. There's a ton of hosting services out right now. Well, when I started, I used a different platform. The thing about this platform and many others is it cost money to use. So I had to pay like $7 a month just to keep my podcast up on it. And I think that I really hated that because it put a pressure on me to record an episode. But then also on top of that, if I wanted to take a break, it would make me feel guilty that I was wasting money because I was paying for it, which is annoying. However, I dealt with it. It was annoying. However, it was okay because every single other platform costs money to use. And then one day, I was on my podcast Instagram, and I saw your mom, Ashley. She's a YouTuber. I love her videos. She's so fun and cute, and I love her family. I love everyone. Anyone who's in her videos, I love them. But she was starting a podcast, and she created a page for it, so I followed it with my podcast Instagram, and I just DM'd her like, hey, like, I think it's so cool that you started a podcast, blah, blah, blah. I'm a podcaster, blah, blah, blah. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And she like messaged me back, and she asked me, we had a like really cute conversation, but she asked me like what platform I use, and I told her, and she's like, I'm thinking about Anchor. And that's when I was like, I agree. Like, I don't know why I didn't start with Anchor, only because it was free and the platform is way easier to use. Yeah, so right now I use Anchor. I highly recommend it. It's easy to use. They host it. They send it out to all the different platforms from Apple to Spotify to Google. And yeah. All right, next is monetization. So I haven't dipped my toes that much into this area. Ads are obviously the number one way to make money off of a podcast. However, you would have to see close to like 5,000 downloads a month to really see like companies and brands asking you to do ad reads. So it's really important to build up your audience before that. That's still something I'm working on. So I'll let you know what happens with that. But next is another suggestion for you guys who are really serious about having a podcast. So I used to do this when I had my blog, or I was running a blog actively. And I was reminded of it by Disha. She has a podcast, But What Will People Say, which is a interracial dating/marriage podcast specifically focused around like South Asian people. But she recommended to have a press kit and a media kit, which I actually highly recommend. So the press kit are for like journalists or bloggers who want to get to know more about you. And it's really, really nice. It can be like one sheet where you're basically like, my name is Laila. I am this old. Wait, my name is Laila. I am 22 years old. I went to this school, studied this. This podcast is about this, and this. And it just runs down all the basic information. And from someone who actually went to journalism school, I would really appreciate that, or I really appreciate it, because basically you can write down how to spell your name, your pronouns. It just makes life easier for the writer. And then also for you to make sure that they're getting the most accurate information about you. And then next is the media kit. So the media kit is what's going to go out to brands and sponsors. So basically, you're going to put a lot of stuff you put in your press kit, but then you're also going to put like other brands I've worked with, or like kind of brands I'm interested in from, like, let's say if you are a beauty podcast like me, you can write down like let's say your niche is clean beauty. You can write down looking for clean beauty products. I'm a clean beauty blogger, so I like to find clean beauty products. You write down how many downloads you get a month, unique listeners, so on and so forth, followers, all that stuff. So that's basically that. That's how you get like a brand to be like, oh yeah, like we'll sponsor you. That is another recommendation. So Disha, if you're listening to this, Disha, on behalf of other podcasters, thank you. All right, so now let's go on to making graphics for like Instagram, your blog posts, so on and so forth. I use Photoshop and Lightroom. I know a lot of people actually really like Canva, and I highly recommend Canva. They have a lot of really cute, oh sorry, there was a noise. But anyways, they have very cute design and graphic details that you can use to create your own like podcast aesthetic. So I highly recommend that. I use Photoshop and Lightroom because I like a lot of control over like my graphics and stuff. And because I've just been using Photoshop for like over 5 years, and same with Lightroom. So I was just really used to it. So currently on Lightroom, I created like a specific set of presents, which are basically like filter sets for my images, especially the ones I shoot myself. Just to help keep a cohesive theme of my podcast Instagram. If you guys want the presents, I will actually be very happy to just give it to you guys, because I have no reason to just like, if anything, I think I would be like, please give me your email so I can send you emails about my podcast, but that's about it. So if you're interested in them, let me know. I'll be happy to give them to you. I think a Lightroom is free for your like phone, so you can definitely use them. The thing about the presents though is when you put them down, you're gonna have to edit them a little, because no photo has the same like lighting structure and like overall just is the same. So you're gonna have to go in and tweak a lot or a little of the filter / like different elements of it just to make it look nice. So yeah, if you want it, let me know. Next, for Photoshop like graphic elements, I get a lot of them from Pinterest. And I have this other website that I use where I get like the realistic like scanned PNGs of pictures, like such as like crumpled paper, torn paper, Polaroid frames. I don't remember where the site is, and I was trying to find it. However, I will find it and link it on the blog because it's really good. On Pinterest, this is my suggestion, which I highly suggest you take, which is when you're on there, make sure you're looking at the usage rights of your PNGs you're getting. I mean, like, it will probably link you to the original artist, and they'll tell you like, oh yeah, you could use it, I don't mind, which is what usually happens most of the time. But you can always just give them a credit. Give credit where credit is due, you know? So I'll link one of my Pinterest boards on the blog, which has a bunch of like the PNG frames and graphic elements on them, so you can look at that. By the way, that board is a mess because it goes straight from like Moomin memes to like, what is it called? Polaroid frames with nothing in them. So yeah, that's what's going on with that. All right, finally, we have the sharing platforms. So the major ones are Instagram and Twitter. Also, we have YouTube and Pinterest. So Instagram is my main one, the one I use usually. Then I have Twitter, which is more for updates. But basically, you can just upload your episodes onto there. That's another platform, and it's ginormous. So, like, I do this all the time. I'll listen to podcast episodes on YouTube. I really like doing that. I just highly suggest you write somewhere where it's like, this is only audio because this is a podcast episode, or else people are going to be sitting there being like, when's the video going to start? But yeah. Next are app recommendations. So I have I'm not done. So next is Pinterest. So my Pinterest is my biggest platform on the internet, basically. I love Pinterest. I'm obsessed with it. I know so many people who are obsessed with it. It's where I get a majority of like the reposted Instagram photos, and then also like how I get an aesthetic for my podcast. The thing about it, actually there's no thing about it. It's really nice. I suggest it, highly suggest it. Next are apps. So the major one that a lot of podcasters use is the Headliner app, which basically will take your podcast audio and put it over a photo. Very simple. It's such a useful app for podcasters because it literally does all the work for you. All you need to do is put up an image and then choose like kind of your sound bite you want and then change the aesthetics a little, and it will basically prepare for you and give it to you so you can upload it to Instagram. It's also how I do my YouTube videos, or the audio to my YouTube videos. It's a phenomenal app. It's available on your phone, but then also for desktop. And then finally, we have my apps for like Instagram, so how I plan it and then how I choose the times. So the Instagram planner app I use is the Plan app. It's available on your phone and then also computer. It's free up until a certain point. I haven't reached that up until a certain point yet. So when I do, I'll let you know if anything changes. But so far, I've uploaded like a bunch of photos on there and it's fine. And that's kind of how I organize my theme for my podcast episode. I mean, my Instagram feed, and I have the option to move around photos and like take some out, add them in just to see what aesthetic works. But I love that. It's also one of the better planner apps I've used, Instagram planner apps I've used ever. Next is for like the timing of when I upload my podcast, when I upload onto my podcast Instagram, I use an app called Tailwind, which you have to connect to your Instagram, and it will basically generate times for you to actually upload to Instagram by doing something called like a smart schedule, and it will change it every single day. So like if you're having trouble finding times to correctly post in the sense of like when you would get the best engagement, I would use this app. Basically, I'll go online and every week I'll refresh it and then see, okay, like when is a good time to upload to Instagram on Monday. I choose my 2 times. I say I want to upload between like 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. And then I want to post 2 times a day, so it'll give me 2 times for each day of when I can upload. I like it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It's really hit or miss, but it gives me a lot more clarity than just sticking to like Instagram Insights thing. So yeah, that is that. Tailwind is actually how I grew my Pinterest. And literally when I started using Tailwind for my Pinterest, it literally skyrocketed almost like a month after I started using it, which was insane. So yeah, that's how I grew my podcast. That's how I grew my Pinterest. So I'm kind of applying it to Instagram, but Instagram is definitely a much harder platform to use. And then also, I just remembered this. I can't believe I forgot this, but Tailwind helps you find hashtags. So like, let's say you type in the hashtag podcast. It will find a bunch of podcast hashtags as well, so you can put them all together. And then on top of that, it's going to tell you which ones are good hashtags / which ones are very popular, very niche hashtags. So you can put together 30 hashtags that better suit your each Instagram post, which is so nice for someone who like doesn't do a lot of like Instagram, like going on Instagram, looking up the different hashtags, seeing what's going on. So yeah, I really like that. I highly recommend Tailwind. Great app. I would even suggest you do the like paid version for a couple months because it's just like really good. Highly recommend. All right, that actually wraps up today's episode of Cute Kind Of. If you would like to listen to future episodes of Cute Kind Of, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Speaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, iHeartRadio, Bullhorn, Amazon Podcasts, and pretty much any other major podcast streaming service. If you'd like to connect with me, you can hit me up on my Instagram at Cute Kind Of Podcast, also on Twitter at Cute Kind Of. If you'd like to email me, feel free to email me at hellocutekindof@gmail.com. And like always, all products, things mentioned, people mentioned are already linked on the blog at www.cutekindof.com. All right, so that episode wrapped up pretty fast. Actually, no, I've been recording for 33 minutes. This is a long episode. It's going to take me a pretty long time to like edit it. But basically, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, do it. Like, literally do it. You have like nothing to lose. It's actually a lot of fun, and it's also very therapeutic to just talk into a mic. And also like on Instagram, the podcast community is like so welcoming and so nice. Like literally everyone wants to be friends with each other, which is definitely the energy that I need right now in my life because COVID has really taken a toll on like my social well-being. But yeah. Like I mentioned, if you would like a video on my Notion setup, I will face my fear and post a video of me explaining my Notion setup and giving you guys a tour. Also, I wanted to drop the idea that maybe after this season, so when the 5th season starts, I might start posting bi-monthly, so like 2 times a month rather than 4. And I would start doing more blog posts because I really miss writing and blogging. It's been a while. And then also on top of that, let me know if you'd rather me put all the links in the show notes of the episode. So like when you are, like, let's say you're on Apple Podcasts, when you look at the description, it has like literally all the links that I mentioned in the episode. If you rather have that than going to the blog post, that's just something I want to know. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm going to wrap it up because it's already very, very long. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Bye!